Chapter 28. Joe Carbo. The following are quotes from his book, The Lazy Man's Way to Riches, published in 1973. Never again will you look at a particularly successful person and sigh, how lucky he is, because you will know that luck, or fate, has absolutely nothing to do with success or failure. What we call luck is, in fact, a direct result of the correct or incorrect application of natural laws anyone can use effectively if he knows how. Most people are too busy earning a living to make any money. In a nutshell, mental conditioning is the foundation of wealth. Once your goals are programmed in, success comes easily. Joe Carbo was renting a ramshackle house in a bad neighborhood along with his wife and 8 children. He was $50,000 in debt and had to refinance his car. In such a predicament, he notes, he was willing to try anything, even if it seemed foolish and ridiculously easy. A friend told him about a system of mental conditioning that had amazing results when tried out on corporate executives. With nothing to lose, Carbo began implementing its principles. First, he wrote out his goals, which included, I own a $75,000 house on the water. My bills are paid. And I earn $100,000 a year. Using the system, these became his reality remarkably quickly, and he resolved to write a simple book describing what he had discovered. Self-published, The Lazy Man's Way to Riches claimed to give readers everything in the world you really want, and went on to sell over 3 million copies, assisted by Carbo's now famous advertisements and sales letters. These gave some people to think it was all a lot of hype. But does the book contain something of real value? A scientific success system. Carbo spent 12 years running an advertising agency for the television industry. He did well, but lost a bundle when he tried to produce his own TV show. The failure, he says, was the best thing that ever happened to me. It made me desperate enough to try anything, and I found Dynapsych. Dynapsych was his made-up term, the word dynamic plus psychology/mind, for the goal-setting system he discovered. He defines it as the programmed study and practice of achieving success by the planned application of important but little understood natural laws. These laws are like electricity, a neutral force that can be used or misused, but through conscious development of the force you can usher in tremendous changes to your life. The first element in the system is to identify exactly what you want. State your destination. You don't go to the airport, Carbo comments, and buy a ticket to somewhere. You have an exact place you need to get to. He makes you ask yourself, what do I want? When you have to answer this in the specific, it can be daunting. For while it is one thing to say to yourself, that would be nice to have, or I wish I could, it is quite another to sit down and write out what you want in life. This is surprising since it has been shown that people who do have written goals tend to live up to them. Those who don't, drift. As well as listing specific things you both need and want, Carbo asks you to put in black and white desired personal attributes, who you would like to be, as well as what you would like to have. These lists are then turned into concrete goals and super suggestions using a checklist. The strange thing about goals is that once they are written down, they immediately begin to seem more realistic. In fact, Carbo warns you to make sure your goals are high enough. This is your chance not to ask for an extra $5,000 on your salary, but to reach toward what would really make your life amazing. Either way, he notes, without clear, well-defined goals, success is impossible. Get there. An interesting effect of this process is you find that some things you thought you really wanted, in fact you don't. Working through your goals in this way tends to isolate and highlight what really matters to you. Most people work too hard and have no real goals, never knowing that If they have very clear aims, things will fall into place for them with less effort. This is the essence of the lazy way. But you still have to do some work. You have to RSVP. Read, study, visualize, perform. And with some time and effort, you can reap huge dividends. The goals you create are turned into a page of daily declarations that you ideally read out loud first thing in the morning and before you go to bed, visualizing each goal as if it were reality. The way the goals are written is vital. Carbo stresses that they must be in the present tense and specific. For example, I have a silver Lexus LS 400. What you read out may not seem possible right now, but through repetition you will condition yourself into acceptance remarkably quickly. Carbo describes the unconscious as the idiot mind, accepting without question whatever you state as fact. Your life then begins to reflect what you believe and expect. Form a new self-picture. Most people suffer from an inadequate self-image, Carbo observes, and yet the way you see yourself is probably the single greatest determinant of your failure or success in life. Fear is ingrained into people from a very early age, a main ingredient in the image you form of yourself that has a tremendous effect on your life. But the conscious mind, because fear is unpleasant, tends to subsume fears into the subconscious mind. The result is that fear is driven underground. But it becomes even more powerful because the subconscious mind is not logical or critical, accepting whatever falls into it. Thus, fears you develop in your childhood shape your actions decades later, unless you do something to change this conditioning. A vital part of the Dynapsych system is to create new beliefs about yourself as confident, effective, and energetic. Carbo shows you how to do this. People conform to expectations about themselves. Carbo once worked at an advertising agency where he had a Ford car dealership as a client. Its manager told him that each salesperson earned about the same amount in commissions from month to month, and that what they earned from year to year did not vary much either. What they earned invariably matched their expectations. The lesson? Expectations drive results, but expectations can easily be changed. How to make decisions. Carbo includes an extremely useful chapter on getting your unconscious mind to help you make important decisions. The process, he says, works in a seemingly magical way and has been used by many of the great minds in history. It involves 3 steps. 1. Write down the problem as concisely as you can on a piece of paper. 2. Try to obtain an answer by listing in one column the reasons for taking a particular action, and in another the reasons against. Often, just doing these 2 steps will solve the problem with no further effort. And 3. If you don't arrive at a satisfactory answer, ask your unconscious computer to solve it for you. Give it a definite time frame. For example, by 4 o'clock tomorrow, I will know exactly what to do about X. If it's a really big issue, give the computer more time. Then, just forget about the problem altogether. How do you know when you have the answer? You will just know. It will pop into your head while driving or gardening or when you wake up. But Carbo gives a word of warning. When you get the answer, act on it. Otherwise, you will find that your unconscious computer is less willing to help next time. Create a living. The first half of The Lazy Man's Way to Riches covers the themes just mentioned. Then it takes a surprising direction. In the second part, Carbo relates his hard-won secrets for running a successful direct response marketing company and how to write great advertisements. For the reader, it seems like a strange transition to make, until you remember the title of the book. His lazy way relates not just to conditioning your mind for success, but providing the reader with a practical way to make money that does not involve a regular job tied to a set wage and location. He promotes direct response marketing as a career because it's one of the last areas where a little guy can get a start, live where he pleases, and work where he wants. A fair amount of the material in these chapters is dated, as it was written over 20 years before the advent of the Internet. Today's equivalent to going into traditional mail order or direct response sales is to start an online store. And yet much of what Carbo says in relation to starting your own business and getting people to buy your products is timeless. And copywriters still pay homage to the power of his thinking on what attracts people to your product and what doesn't. He promises the reader, "If you'll follow the principles I've outlined in this book, you're sure to come up with an idea. At the very least, your idea will double or triple your present income. Even if your idea is nothing more than how to do what you're doing right now better." In essence, his message is that to do well in business, you have to solve problems for people. If you have found something annoying or difficult, the chances are that others have too, and you can make a lot of money by saving people time and effort. Final comments. As a strange combination of a self-development/goal-setting manual and an instruction book for how to run a mail-order business and write magnetic advertisements, The Lazy Man's Way to Riches is now a classic in two domains: prosperity and self-development, but also marketing and copywriting. It was a self-published work sold through advertisements. It was never listed in books in print. The book looks very amateurish and can easily be dismissed as a marketing scam. It is said that Carbo wrote it only after he had received $50,000 in orders. If true, what a good way to write a book. And yet, wherever it came from, and despite its laid-back conversational style, many have found the Dynapsych system very powerful in helping them achieve their goals, financial or otherwise. There are hundreds of books on goal setting, but it is the clarity of Carbo's system that seems to make it work. His assertion that, without clear, well-defined goals, success is impossible, is hard to prove. Everyone surely knows successful people who have not had written goals, yet they have likely been a success despite not having goals, not because of that. Dynapsych shows us that through clear goals, you create certainty in your mind, and it is conviction that moves mountains. Joe Carbo. Born in 1925, Carbo grew up in California. After high school, he served for almost 3 years in the U.S. Armed Services as a third-class pharmacist mate. On discharge in 1945, he got married, and with his wife Betty, had the first of their children. He had intended to enroll in the University of California, but instead had to look for a job. After rejecting one making roller skates, he instead began buying unwanted cardboard boxes from department stores and reselling them to small businesses. Carbo spent 12 years running an advertising agency in the television industry, but went into debt after a foray into television production. At 40, he was advised to declare bankruptcy, but decided to pay back all his debts. 10 years later, he was a millionaire, partly from sales of his books and also from a vitamin mail order company. He died in 1980.